Hi, neighbors. This is Kevin Murphy with the Green Valley Sahuarita Sun neighbor site. And today we have Burley Packwood here for an interview. Burley is an astrophotographer who actually has a backyard observatory in his yard. And so we're going to be talking a little bit about how he takes these astro images and a little bit about how he got into it. So, hello, Burley. How are you doing?
Hi, Kevin. Doing fine, thanks.
So, tell the neighbors, first, what is astrophotography and how you got into it?
Astrophotography is basically taking any picture you want to of the cosmos or of the sky. It can be any phenomena. It can be, it's usually at night, but it certainly doesn't have to be. It can be during the day. It can be almost any picture you want. It can be of the Milky Way. It can be of the moon. It can be of literally of a rainbow or of comets or anything that is in the sky. So that's astrophotograph. The way I got into it was I've been kind of an imager all my life. I got my first camera in the third grade, and have been taking pictures kind of ever since. But I didn't get into astrophotography until the advent of digital photography, which came in around the turn of the century, around 2000. And that changed pretty much everything. Now you can take long exposures and not worry about the problems that film gave us. And so that's when I got my first telescope and my first astronomy camera. And I built an observatory in Washington State, where I was in Seattle for 40 years. And then I'm in '07, I moved to Green Valley and installed a 7-foot dome where my equipment is now, and that's what I'm using now.
Okay,
So
can you tell the neighbors a little bit about your observatory you built in your backyard?
yeah, it's a 7-foot dome. It's called a clamshell, so it opens up. There's a picture of me in front of it. It's closed, obviously, there, but it houses the mount, which is cemented to about a cubic yard of concrete in the ground for stability, and then on top of that is and that allows you to track the night sky across and not get star trails and whatnot. And of course, the telescope is attached to the mount, and at the end of the telescope is the camera. So it's basically there. You can see the camera and just the top of the mount, but it's a wide field because of the HOA. I was forced to put in a fairly small dome. And so I have to use shorter equipment, but it's wide field, which allows me to take a bigger swatch of the sky. And there are certain advantages to that as well. But that's
Okay,
the equipment I'm using right now.
great. Can you tell us just how long it took you to master astrophotography, and then also, what all goes into capturing an image successfully?
Okay, well, funny story. When I first started this a little over 20 years ago, I teamed up with a very good astro imager, and I asked him that same question. And he said, well, it'll take you about a year to learn how to acquire the equipment and to learn how to use it all. And it'll take you 10 years to get good at it. And I thought, oh, give me a break. I'll do it faster than that. No, it took me 10 years to get good at it. It really does take you that long. Now, I was working at the time, so, I wasn't doing it full time. People who are retired can do it in a shorter period of time, but it does take a good long period of time. And to answer your second question, uh, that's also a broad brush question because there are a lot of ways of doing astro imaging. You can do it with a digital camera. That's certainly one way. And you can attach that digital camera to a telescope, which of course gives you more magnified views. And then you get into filters and multiple different kinds of filters. Some of my images required up to 5 filters and up to 20. In fact, the longest image that I ever took was 40 hours of data
Whoa.
acquisition time. Most are much shorter than that. Most were 5 to 15 hours of acquisition. So it's a it would take an hour to try to adequately really answer the question as to how all the different ways you can do it. People are doing nightscapes now with just regular digital cameras. And you've probably seen nightscapes. The typical nightscape is to see the arc of the Milky Way across the sky. And then in the foreground is something else that's beautiful, like, say, the Grand Canyon or Arches National Park or something like that. That's also a very legitimate way of doing it. But you can just use a regular camera for that, or even a cell phone camera. So it's another way to do it.
Okay. Well, can you tell us how, what makes Green Valley an ideal spot to take astrophotography photos in the night skies here?
That's an easy one. It's because of our dark skies. That's why I moved to Arizona, actually. I knew that I wanted to get into, as I retired, I wanted to get seriously into astroimaging. And we are fortunate. Arizona, as you know, we're surrounded by large observatories, and which cost a lot of money. So there's a lot of money in astronomy, and money brings power. And that means that politically they can limit the amount of light pollution. We don't have the large LED billboards in Tucson that they do in Phoenix. You can't do the kind of photography that my colleagues and I are doing if you live in Phoenix. It's just too light polluted. But we live in dark skies, and we're very fortunate to have that. But we protect those dark skies, and Tucson's doing a good job of doing that. Flagstaff has recently been designated as an official dark sky site. I mean, that's one of the first towns or cities in the country to be an official dark sky site. So the short answer is dark skies.
Very interesting. We're going to show everyone some of your favorite astro images. And as they pop up on the screen, if you could just explain what we're looking at and what make them so special for you, that'd be great.
Sure.
So what are we looking at here?
Okay, this is the Andromeda Galaxy. It's the nearest spiral galaxy to our Milky Way, and it's got all sorts of history. It's not only a pretty spiral, it's a barred spiral galaxy, but it's the galaxy that less than 100 years ago, Edwin Hubble did astrophotos of and determined that, in fact, it was a lot farther than our Milky Way. So it's just reeking in history. He found what's called a Cepheid variable and found out that this galaxy we're looking at is more than 10 times the distance that our Milky Way is. So that's one reason it's special for me and a lot of other people.
Great. Yeah, it's a beautiful shot.
Thank you.
How long did that one take you to capture?
Let's see, I have that data here. That one was 13 and a half hours.
Man, it is beautiful.
Thank you.
So what are we looking at here? It looks like the moon.
That is the moon. Yeah, I'm kind of concentrating a lot on the moon lately. It's one of my favorite objects, and it's a lot of photographers' favorite objects because obviously it's the nearest body to Earth, and it's relatively easy to photograph. With this, I used the telescope that I have in my dome. And in this case, I used a webcam, which I can take I think in this case, I took 5,000 images in about 20 minutes. They're very, very fast, very short images, but they're very high resolution. And then you sort those out using software. It's called lucky imaging. And the reason for that is of course, the atmosphere is boiling all the time. It's moving. And some of your images turn out very clear and others turn out very unclear. And the software sorts that out. And so you take the best, in this case, I think I took the best 20% of those 5,000. So and then you stack those. So this is a stacked pile of about 1,000 images, and that's how you get detail like this. You do the same thing if you image planets. But this, just very briefly, this rim of mountains going vertically, kind of curvilinear vertically, is the Apennine range of mountains, named after the Apennine Mountains in Italy. And these are some of the tallest peaks on the moon. Some are a little over 3 miles high, which is, I find, pretty amazing.
Yeah. Very cool shot.
Thank you. It's fun imaging the moon. I love it.
So what are we looking at here now?
This is the Orion Nebula, and it's probably the most complicated picture I've taken. It is a compilation, let's see, of how many hours. I think this is 23 hours total.
Whoa.
Using 5 different filters, and because there are extremely bright areas and extremely dim areas in the Orion Nebula, the exposures ranged from 5 seconds long to 20 minutes long, and then you stack all those multiple images together, and you come up with something like this. This is also naked eye visible. You can see it with the naked eye. You can see it easily with binoculars or any small telescope. You won't see the color with those instruments because you need the eye simply won't see color for in a small instrument. You need a very, very large observatory-based instrument to see any color in this. But it's an amazing. It's all sorts. It's a stellar nursery. All sorts of stars are being born, and it's in the Orion constellation. It's actually in the sword of Orion. So I encourage people to check it out certainly with their binoculars. It's an easy binocular subject.
Okay, yeah, some breathtaking images there, Burley. So I appreciate you sharing them with us.
Thank you.
So, kind of my last question, general question here. So how have humans benefited from astrophotography over the years?
I think the best way to answer that, well, first of all, there's the aesthetic side of it. I mean, just looking up and seeing the beauty of the night sky. I mean, we've been looking at the night sky for centuries, thousands of years, but now that we have the ability to magnify it, we can see much more. So there's the beauty aspect, but there's also the scientific aspect. And I think I mentioned Edwin Hubble. I think it was in 1924. Using the Hooker telescope on Mount Wilson, took a picture of the Andromeda galaxy and saw those Cepheid variables and went, whoa, wait a minute. That means that sucker is 2.5 million light years away, which is more than 10 times as far as the furthest extent of the Milky Way. So there's real science that comes from an astrophoto. And we're still professionals are still doing most of their science using astro images from observatories.
Very interesting. So in addition to your website, Arizona Night Skies, you have a book, and it's a picture book. Do you want to let the neighbors know a little bit about it and where they can find this?
Sure. Yeah, I actually wrote this during the pandemic, not having much else to do. And a lot of these pictures are on my website that you gave at the beginning of the program. And it is available on Amazon, both in the softback and the hard cover version. It was a lot of fun to write, but it is, like you say, it is a picture book. I do say how I do it. It does have some technical information for people just getting started in the hobby, but it's not for that. It's mostly a pretty picture book. We laugh about that. Basically, amateur astro imagers are taking pretty pictures. That's the goal. It's really not for the science, although there is some science there. But we're taking pictures that appeal to people, and hopefully this book also appeals to people.
Yes. Well, I can tell you that the neighbors are enjoying the astro imagery you're posting on the neighbor site here. And so I look forward to seeing more of your posts when your backyard observatory is up and running. So again, thank you for taking the time to interview today, and
Thank you, David.
Much appreciated, Burley. Hope to talk to you on Neighbors shortly.
I sure hope so too.